Go for it.
All right, today is Monday, October 29th. This is the Kubernetes CSI implementation group meeting. Let's just jump right in and go down to our 112 updates. All right. So, Patrick has a PR out to address bumping up these containers. That's correct. I think we just need final approval on this. So we should hopefully get that done today. Let's see. We did find some, and it ended up there were some issues with moving the PD CSI driver to beta. I think we're still going through a new release process, so we haven't cut that container yet, but the sidecars have been updated. Patrick, was there anything else you were working on?
It doesn't look like Patrick's on the line today.
All right. So I think once that PR merges, then it will unblock the snapshot test that Xing is working on. Let's see. Topology tests. Chang is not on the line. I think he's working on it. And Jan is also, I think has this one merged? Let's see. This one, oh, I think it was this one. Last time. Okay. That's, okay. So Jan should be unblocked now. He needed the CSI test release, which Luis has done. Is that correct?
Yes, I added it to the miscellaneous bullet. Yes.
Okay. Awesome. This is done. Okay. So I think that's it on the 112 items. Let's go up here. Okay, let's go back up to miscellaneous updates. So Luis released this. Great. I think that will unblock Jan on his work.
Just one thing on that I want to say is that, I started CSI tests a long time ago, but I really appreciate the community coming in together. And this release, I almost added nothing to it, and it was all the community added to it. So I really appreciate that. So
yeah, awesome.
Thanks.
Yeah, thanks everyone, and thanks Luis for all the work that you guys have done. Okay, so next thing, it turns out that while we were trying to make the CSI tests run some of the entry volume tests, there ended up being problems with FS group. So it seems like the FS group fix that we put in, or FS group is still not working really correctly the way that we need it to be. So I think Hemant is working on this one. I can sync up with him on the status, but he's going to look into that. Let's see, Jan's still not here. And all right, from last time, Luis, you were talking about the CSI sample block file driver?
Yes.
Was there anything else you wanted to update on this other than to just say it's here?
Yeah, I mean, that bullet you can remove because it's just saying it's here. Correct.
Okay.
I haven't finished it yet because I keep finding issues.
Yeah. Great.
And
Okay.
the next bullet talks about an issue I just found where I have it's all available in my notes, but I bring up a launched local server thing for Kubernetes 113, and it has enabled CSI node info, and I did not pass in my driver registrar Kubernetes plugin path, I think it was called, and I got this message, right?
Uh-huh.
And
Yeah, I
then
think there was some funny business in 112 when we enabled the Cubelet plugin registration by
yeah,
default. I think a lot of people have complained about this error message.
yeah, and the weird part is that when I did add it, it still didn't work.
Hmm.
Like I could not get again. The cluster was brought up with CSI node info feature gate enabled. So maybe if I disable that, uh, it will work. I haven't tried that yet.
Sorry,
But
so you're enabling node info feature gate. Are you also enabling CSI driver feature gate?
CSI driver, yeah, yes, because I can actually do a kubectl get CSI drivers, and I see my driver there.
Okay,
So
and your CSI driver is creating these objects, or it's
the
creating a CSI driver object?
the CSI driver object is created by the driver registrar, the CRD.
Is created by this. I mean, the CRD exists, but the CR representing your driver, does that exist?
Yeah, it's created by the driver registrar also.
Oh, okay. So you're running that, and the settings on that, you set it to skip attach?
Yes, I'd set it to skip attach.
Okay, and so you're saying with all of that running together,
I have a question.
where do you see this error?
I see it when I'm trying to just I asked it to take a PVC and attach it to a pod, and the
Okay.
pod said this.
Wait, the
Driver.
pod during mount?
Yes.
So that sounds like it's a kubelet issue.
Yeah.
Did you manually install the CRDs?
Okay, that's good point. So I did grab that put that on my little notes. Also, everything's on my notes down towards the bottom. It's very detailed, so you can read it later. But I tried to do a kubelet get CSI node infos, right? And that it says does not exist. It doesn't know what the API
Right.
object is. So like Zink just said, I had to then go to the documentation and create and run the kubelet line. Sorry, the kubectl line to create the CRD.
That's what I did. So I don't know if there's a way.
So with the
without that.
1.12 release, you have to create the CRD manually.
But I just wanted you to know that I
Yes.
ran that line and it does not work.
Oh, I think Chang has an update for it. It's you have to add like disable validate.
Oh, yeah, it's
Validation. There's a PR that's pending. If you can take a look at that and merge that from Chang, that fixes the documentation for that.
Okay.
I am fixing that overall CRD deployment mechanism. If one of the items that I have this quarter. But until then, you're doing it manually, and you have to disable validation in order to enable that. So assuming you've got the CRDs installed, it sounds like this, like Michelle said, is an issue with Cubelet registration. When Cubelet comes up, it registers your driver, or when your driver socket is discovered, it's registered with Kubernetes, and this error seems to indicate for some reason that registration didn't happen. You're running with the updated flag to the driver registrar that tells it that I have the second socket and please turn on Cubelet registration?
I only saw one flag.
Yeah, there should only be one flag.
You need to. But Louis, I do have a question. When for the registrar binary, are you running just one or two?
I'm running two different binaries. One is actually in a stateful set, and one is a daemon set. And the DWinSet is the one that
No, what
does
I
the
meant.
registration.
I
Okay.
think Vlad's question is whether you're running one socket or two socket. Is that what you're asking?
No, because the binary, the way we have it now, you have to have it twice. One
have
is
to
to
have twice.
enable the
Yeah.
registration,
Yeah.
and then the other one is for it to do the socket registration.
Can we just
make
have
sure that was-
driver registrar just create the CSI driver? I mean, we're creating in it already the CSI driver object CRD, the registration of it. Can we just have it just do the other one?
Which other one?
The CSI node info.
CSI node
The
info
objects.
has permission issues, which is why we had to move it to Cubelet. They don't want the daemon running, being able to have permission to update that object. They want Cubelet to control and basically have permissions to that. So it has to go through Cubelet.
But Cubelet then needs to create it, right?
Yes, Cubelet needs to create the node info object.
Okay, got it.
Okay, maybe let's discuss offline. I want to make sure that your issue here is resolved, though. I make sure.
Maybe what would you like me to do? I can create issues for it. I'm finding a bunch of stuff. I have not been able to make it work yet. Just
create an issue for everything, and anything that you find a workaround for, put it in that issue, update it, and then also help triage the issue as is this a blocker for 1.0 or not.
Got it.
And then we can look at them one by one.
Yeah, also take a look at the updated documentation that Cheng is doing for the 112 bring up.
Okay.
Yeah, I think I have it linked somewhere underneath in the.
Okay, I will do that. There's one more thing I wanted to update you guys with, is that as a driver developer, this has been the toughest time to create a YAML for CSI driver. And I would say that to battle that, I would suggest, even I'm volunteering myself, to create like a simple shell script program that you give it a driver name and it outputs all your YAML for that version. So that way, we don't have to go, the driver developers don't have to go to the website and like pieces of it, put it all together like a puzzle. Instead, we just say, look, just run this one program. It outputs your entire YAML for you.
So I think Jan is actually planning on doing that with his CSI operator that he has.
Does he? A CSI operator is like too far ahead because CSI operator is very opinionated, right? Mm-hmm. I'm just saying, just output the YAML and then let the person do whatever they want with it. So, because, like example, in Portworx, we'll take that YAML and we'll include it into ours, right? Ours is already daemon set.
I mean, honestly, I think the issue is not necessarily how inconvenient it is to put together the YAML, but the discoverability of it. I think the documentation right now is not in a very good state. So if you're brand new and you're trying to say, oh, I had a driver that was working in 0.2, I moved it to this new Kubernetes release 1.12. What do I have to do to get it working? What do all these different flags mean? How does all of it work together? Just kind of like an intro, how do I get my thing running? If we can do a better job explaining that, I agree that putting together 100 YAML files is annoying, but I think it's less of a challenge than actually, if you know what you're doing, you can do it.
Well, I'll give you an example. If I had 2 YAMLs, I'll just diff them, and then I can see the difference, right? But because there is stateful sets, daemon sets, driver registrar, because it's so broken up, it gets very confusing. It's like, what do I type? So if I can just start with something, it's not saying that this is the thing you're going to use. It's like, this is a good starting point for you to go from here.
Hey, Luis. So in the docs, the example actually has all the YAMLs needed for 1.12.
Yeah, I took the ones you
does
did
not
for
work?
snapshot. I took those and I had to adjust them still.
Still?
Yes. So
then, we should make sure that's all up to date.
So what is needed there? I know that one is for host path, and definitely that works for that example. Is there anything specific for your driver that is not
I guess Luis's argument is that you have to take that and you have to understand which fields you have to change from those YAMLs. Is that right?
Yeah,
Okay.
not only that, but I mean, today, just to let you know, I still haven't been unable to make it work.
Mm-hmm.
So what I'm trying to say is that it would be, it's okay. The way we have it right now is I had to copy and paste those into a file and then do a replace of the host path to my driver. And then I have to adjust, like go through and making sure everything works, right? What I'm just trying to make it easier is like, if we just use sed and output the YAML, and it's, I mean, that's pretty much on what I'm.
Yeah, you know what? Anything that we can do to make the developer user experience better, I'm all for it. A problem with doing this is if we do it, we end up having to maintain it, and it's one more thing we have to maintain in addition to the documentation. And considering the state of the documentation right now, which is fairly poor, I would prefer to take that effort and have it focused on improving the documentation first. And then once we get into a stable place, I think we can go ahead and add tooling like this.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, all I'm trying to say is like, make the copy paste and change easier.
Yeah, I hear you, and we're in a very bad state in terms of getting new drivers running right now. So I'm glad you're going through the exercise. Please document the crap out of everything you're doing and update the existing documentation. Every issue you run into, other developers are going to run into, and they're going to quit before they go forward with it. So we want to make sure that we can help them.
No problem. I'm grabbing everything into my notebook, and what I'm going to do is go back through it, making sure I get everything. Create issues.
One more thing is, I know we had that at the bottom of the CSI Kubernetes documentation page, the 1.10, 1.11 release archive pages. I think for 1.12, it'll be very important to archive everything that we have. So let's get, before we go to 1.13, take a snapshot of whatever we know works for 1.12, put that under the 1.12 page, and then continue to modify the main site for 1.13. Okay. Anyway, carry on.
Yeah, that's all I have.
All right. Thanks for all the work and validation, Luis.
Thank you. I think something got messed up there with the links.
Did I do something? Let me undo. Does that look better?
There we go. Yeah, that looks better.
Okay. All right. Tasks tied to CSI GA. So I think we are unblocked on this now, so we can move forward. Let's see. I think we just, has this been removed with us or reviewed with us? Did anyone give, nobody from our end? This is the PR to move all the API objects to GA.
Oh, okay. I think we were waiting on Jordan to give his thumbs up.
Yeah.
And if he has it, then I can give a thumbs up from our end.
Yeah, I think it looks like here Jan just pinged Jordan to see if there's anything, if he has any other concerns. We could probably go at least on our side, review this and give it LGTM.
Okay, I will take a note to do that.
All right, thanks. Let's see. Next item is the Cubelet device registration mechanism. Vlad, do you have an update here?
The update that I have is basically what was last week. I've talked to Renaud. He owes, well, I'm trying to figure out what exactly he needs for him to keep moving. So last time I spoke to him, he told me that he gave me a list, or he updated the PR of what's needed. I'll contact him again to see if, actually I contacted him Friday to see what I can do to move this along. I haven't gotten a firm resolution at how to get this moving, but I'll keep going at him again to see what I can get out of him.
Okay.
There's not, from what he has, there's no code change. It's mostly, I guess, going to the owners to make sure that Go and GA is okay. So I'm trying to get that set up and trying to push him to do that.
Do you have any engagement with Node or any of the other folks that we're going to need to get approval from yet?
I haven't engaged Node. Whoever else needs to be involved in this, I've been going through Renault, because since he's the kind of the author of the PR.
That's completely fair. I just want to make sure we get ahead of that, because literally we are like 2.5 weeks away from code freeze. And if there is a surprise in terms of approvals, I don't want this to like last minute block.
Yeah, I don't want this one to be right. I agree.
If we can get ahead of that, let's do that.
Okay, I'll do that. I'll follow up with whoever needs to be involved.
Cool.
All right.
Yeah, Vlad, also just a heads up, someone is trying to basically refactor the CSI plugin so that we don't have a global variable for like the driver cache and all that.
Yes, I'm aware of that.
Okay, cool. There's like,
and this is some folks from Pivotal.
Gotcha.
Is that something that we need to do for GA, or can we look at it next release?
I was hoping that we can get it in, but if not, it's not, because what we have right now does work. But what these PRs are addressing are refactoring that could be issues down the road, specifically because we're doing package level variable sharing, data sharing, that could be an issue. So that's what that PR is, or those PRs are addressing. But if we can't get to them, I would still move forward and then come back and fix them as bugs.
Okay. Well, let's communicate that on those threads, so there's no surprises in terms of like, oh crap, I wanted this in, I expected it in, I don't want this to move forward, kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Right. Okay. Yeah. Yes. Okay. I agree.
All right.
And in terms of, I understand it's a refactoring, and we may not necessarily go for it for this quarter, but it might, depending on how the refactoring plays out and what kind of format it makes the most sense, it might change. It might be a good idea to change the overall plugin watcher interface and all that. So Renaud might have to be involved as well.
Are those changes going to be backwards compatibility breaking?
I think those would be internal only.
Okay, as long as it's internal, that's fine.
Yeah.
By interface, you mean like internal interface, not like a public API.
Exactly.
Okay.
Right.
That should be okay, as long as there are sufficient tests around the public interface. Then any internal refactoring that we do can be validated by those tests.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
All right. Next sort of related item is the CSI plugin unregistration callback.
So what I was gonna do is kind of looked at what those refactors would bring in, but before I engage in that, but I think what I'll do based on what we just mentioned is keep going with the refactor, or with the callback deregistration code, and put that in place, and then when we are at a more stable space, we can consider the refactoring work that's going on right now.
All right. Awesome.
Yep.
All right. Next is the CRD installation mechanism.
So that should be in a usable state. If anybody's blocked on it, feel free to grab the latest PR. I'm still fixing up tests, and I'm trying to verify what kind of flag gate we want to have on it, if any, because it means that the flag gate is different from the one that we use inside core Kubernetes, and I want to make sure that it's set correctly.
Okay.
That should be okay. So if you're blocked on it, you're using it, take the latest PR, use it to deploy the CRD. And that's it.
All right. Thanks. Okay. Topology support.
Yeah, so I'm still working on the second item. I'm a little stuck on the webhook configuration generation. So I was going through how to basically get the webhook installed, and one of the things they need is this TLS certificate and the certificate bundle from the Cube API server, so that the API server can contact the webhook. So, so pretty much all the documentation I could find online refers to a couple of scripts from, I think, Istio around how to do this. So is anyone aware of any standard way to set up like, sort of an entry-ish, I know it's not entry, but like an external webhook that can be deployed automatically with Cube, like without using these special scripts from external repos?
Interesting.
That's sort of the part I'm not quite sure exactly what to do. I'll keep researching a little bit, but like maybe a question for Saad would be like, do you think like this add-on manager, like we can add these scripts to it to basically set up the certificate and the CA bundle from the API server as part of overall installation?
I think we'll have to talk. We might have to talk to API machinery on this to get some guidance from them.
Yeah,
on
like
how
the cluster lifecycle.
Yeah, in-tree admission webhooks. Maybe can you just like drop a message in their Slack and see if anyone has any ideas?
Oh, that sounds good. So SIG API machinery, right?
Yeah, try API machinery first and then cluster lifecycle.
Yeah.
Okay.
It feels like external admission webhook is like a standard pattern, so they must have some sort of recommendation for how to do it. But I think
but I don't know if they have one for like in-tree yet.
Yeah,
that's what I searched for in GitHub. Okay. Couldn't find anything, but yeah, I'll drop a line and see.
Okay. Second question around this, I think Michelle was mentioning this morning, is this a blocker for GA or not? How much of this do we want to get in?
I think this is a nice to have for the CSI node because it's more around validation of the topology semantics, like, the or and the and.
I think from an API perspective, though, then if we added it later, it would be potentially breaking.
Yeah, that's a good.
So does that mean if we're not able to get this in this quarter, we want to hold off on the topology beta? Or is this a requirement for GA?
Like if we added this in after beta, then I think we would not be able to require it by default. Like it would be, is this a per plugin webhook that has to be deployed? Or is it one webhook for the whole cluster?
It's one webhook for the whole cluster. So all CSI node infos will pass through it, like all the CI.
So if we introduce this after, let's say we promote the API to beta, and then we introduce this in the next release, how bad would that be?
That would be potentially breaking API compatibility because we would be adding restrictions to validation that weren't there before.
Which we have a little bit of flexibility to do for beta.
It would have to be with like a 2 months, or what is it, 2 releases?
Deprecation notice.
Yeah.
Okay, and then second question around this is it in-tree work or external work? Because the in-tree work is subject to the code freeze deadline, November 15.
So I think the recommendation that I believe you mentioned was, since this needs to end up in the staging repo with the CRDs, it needs to go in tree.
Got it. Okay. And what's your feeling overall in terms of making this cycle?
I think the webhook itself is fairly simple. It's more like this installation business that's
okay.
Sort of.
All right, so we'll let you get more information about that, and hopefully we can get a better understanding of how likely it is to slip.
Okay, sounds good.
All right. I think also the installation needs to be in tree, right?
Yes.
Right.
Okay. All right. Let's see. Using an informer. I think this would mostly be an internal change, so we could get this in after the fact.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Let's see. Move CSI driver and CSI node info objects from alpha to beta. So this requires a CRD installation mechanism in place. We need to go through the same downgrade scenario exercises that we've been doing for everything else. I think other than that, the other item that we need to do before we can move these objects to beta is we need to have E2E tests for them. So they're all, I mean, those are all currently tracked under our 112 stuff, but I think the E2E tests need to be a must requirement before we go to beta.
Yep, that seems like a good idea.
I also think yesterday night, Fabio sent a work in progress PR on this.
Okay.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Okay, so he's working on moving the objects, the API objects, but is he working on the E2E tests for I think the main one that's missing test is the pod information, CSI pod information one.
The pod workload one, yeah.
Yeah. Do you know if Fabio was also working on this?
So all I see is, I just posted the PR. The only test change I see is mainly around the one of the existing tests. So I don't think like any new tests got added, at least as part of the PR.
Okay.
So that needs to be followed up.
All right. Oops. All right. All right. Oh, and I guess Cheng, you're here now. Do you have an update on the topology tests?
Just working to understand the existing structure for the CSI frameworks and all the refactoring work that's going on.
All right, great. All right. And then, all right, moving the CSI spec to 1.0.
CSI spec to 1.0, there are, I think it seems to be on track. If there are any issues that you have that you want in, and I think Luis has a number of ones that he wanted for block, those are what are currently scaring me. Please get your issues created and marked as 1.0 so that we can triage them and see what's a blocker for 1.0 or not.
Okay, and to clarify, so once we move the CSI spec to 1.0, then we need to, is there anything we need to update in tree Kubernetes?
We need to update Kubernetes to pick up the new generated CSI 1.0 client. And that should be it. And then along with the generated client, any backwards compatibility breaking changes we need to address. Okay.
So do you think we're going to be able to do all of that in 2.5 weeks?
That's the hope. Let me try to build out a timeline and see what it's going to look like.
Yeah, because
I'm going to go and triage the bugs that we have to see which ones are like truly blocking and which ones are not. I think if we don't have any major blocking bugs, then we should be okay. If we have big blocking bugs, then we have.
Okay. So And right now we don't. Okay, I think this one we don't need anymore for
Yep.
topology. What's a strike through?
Format.
Okay, give up. I'll do it later. Okay. All right. Moving the RBAC role definitions from Kubernetes to external repos. So Patrick has a PR out to load all the driver specs by the manifest instead of in code. I think